Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Team Liquid Legacy Star League, the very first day of casting. I am joined here by Elegant. This is qualifier number 1. I am so pumped, Elegant. My heart is like pounding in my chest right now. Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I actually can't express quite how excited I am. I think I need a towel to wipe the smile off my face because it's just ridiculous. You're going to see so much of this today, but God, I'm so happy.
That's right. Now, I know it says it's going to start from the round of 4 in the title, but since we had a few delays and people were playing epic games, we're actually going to start with a game from the round of 16. It's going to be SJ.TerrOr versus SJ.Napoleon. So let me bring up our lovely, lovely matchup screen here.
It is a thing of beauty.
Indeed, indeed. And in case you were wondering, by the way, just for those of you who are slightly confused, that is in fact a StarCraft 1 Brood War map. That's right. It's not a StarCraft 2 event? See, now, you'd be surprised. We actually had a few people sign up to this tournament, download like the Brood War launcher thingy, go into the game, start the game, and be like, wait a minute, I only have 4 workers. Is this map rigged? So, I just wanted to make it clear for all the viewers, this is in fact a Brood War Star League. That's why it's called the Legacy Star League. And of course, sponsored by Razer and Twitch. Got to give them a shout out right off the bat. They are awesome. Thank you very much to both of those entities. Entities, is that? I don't know.
Yeah, that'll do. That'll do.
All right, cool. So, I think, without further ado, we can just jump straight into game number 1.
I think we can.
Round of 16. It's going to be Terror versus Napoleon, a TVZ on Fighting Spirit. Here we go. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, in game number 1, spawning at the top left as the White Terran, we have SJ.TerrOr, and at the bottom left as the Yellow Zerg, we will have SJ.Napoleon. This is actually going to be a team kill here in the round of 16. And a quick note as well, this is actually the first game of a best of 3, I believe. Oh, no, never mind, it is just a best of 1, this is round of 16.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. No, a little bit of confusion there. Yeah, it is. Okay, so this is just going to be straight up and down action between these two guys. Loser goes home, 4 now, and the winner would be going through to the next round. It's cool.
Indeed, indeed. So, I believe we'll probably have a lot of viewers who might not be so familiar with Brood War, so I think we'll try and be a bit more newbie friendly. So basically, Fighting Spirit, this map is actually right now far and away the most played map on the Fish server, which is dominated by Koreans. It's basically the only map you can play. Foreigners like to mix it up a little bit more on other maps, but this is basically like the go-to map in Brood War nowadays. It's completely standard, there's no random gimmicks, it's completely balanced in all 3 matchups as well. So, so if you want to get good practice games in, or you want to just have a nice tournament map to use, then this is your go-to map, and that's why it's going to be a staple in the TLS. We have it in every single round.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of the absolute classic favourite maps, and it even makes it still into Map of the Week on IC Cup, despite being actually a pretty old map, but it's well renowned for being very balanced, and of course everybody knows it, which is why it's great for tournaments like this. And straight away we see a pretty standard play from our Zerg player Napoleon, throwing down the early hatchery, because this is of course a 4-player map, and the spawn distances are fairly long, especially if you get cross positions, and rushing can be a little bit tough, although we are seeing close positions today, so never quite know what Terra is going to be able to pull out.
Yep, and luckily for Terror, he's actually scouted correctly with his first SCV. So even though it is a 4-player map, just guessing correctly there, I'm going to scout his opponent straight away. Going to see it is a 12 hatch, absolutely standard in ZVT, just standard economic opening. Unfortunately for Napoleon, he did send out a drone scout, turns out not to be so useful. However, seeing the timing of this SCV, he will know that his opponent did spawn at the top left. He did just check here at the bottom right, didn't see anything there, and he knows that given how early that SCV got into his base, his opponent must be in close position. So he knows where his opponent is, and just as I say that, actually his Overlord actually makes it to the natural, sees the command center planted. It was in fact a 1-Rax expand from the Terran, again a very standard macro opening. Even though it is a best of 1, both players just playing very, very standard builds, safe builds, not going to try any cheesy shenanigans. They're both very, very good players, so no need to try and cheese the other guy out.
Both very well renowned as well. I mean, Napoleon's been around forever. I can't necessarily speak for TerrOr, but I think he's been around for a very long time as well. But I bet we would have seen so many kind of cheesy builds in the earlier stages, because of course this is best of 1, these qualifiers, all the way through to a pretty late stage. So yeah, I would expect to have seen a lot of cheese had we been casting in the earlier stages. But these guys, you know, they know what they're up against, and they both seem to have decent faith in themselves to take it at least into the mid game. So we're seeing some very safe, very standard stuff from both of these guys so far. With our Terran player reacting to a fast expand by throwing down a fast expand of his own.
This drone, oh, doesn't. Oh, you didn't actually keep going for it. The drone was pulled, but that'll be interesting if he tries to take it down later. Interestingly, Napoleon actually sends all 6 Zerglings straight to TerrOr's base here. Doesn't even bother chasing that scouting SCV. There will be a bunker up in time to stop this, though, so this attack isn't going to do too much. It's going to be quite close, though. Wow, just cutting it right down to the edge there, leaving a couple SCVs off there to block as well. Notice he did put a supply depot here to help wall this off a little bit more, so the Zerglings would have to kind of run through this little gap to go up the ramp there.
Yeah.
So, Napoleon realizes this and is just going to pull his Zerglings back to deal with this scouting SCV.
It's always such a fine line, especially I find in TVZ, between getting your timings bang on or completely screwing them up and losing the game because of it. And that was an example of maybe cutting it a little bit too fine. I would have liked to see that bunker up a little bit earlier, but I guess if he knows exactly what his timing is going to be, then that's about right. But so often you see players just slightly mess up their missile turret timings, and before you know it, the Mutalisks are in your main doing the damage. So that kind of close timing can sometimes backfire a little bit, but he seems to get away with it for now. And the Zerglings are pulled home, and they should be able to take out the SCV. Oh, actually, no, abandoning the idea, and yeah, heading back out to the Terran's main. I wonder if she's just going to have a little bit of a crack at those Marines out there, which have headed out onto the map.
Ooh, looks like it might have been a bit of a fake here. He kind of doubled back as soon as the SCV started moving out and caught it on the ramp. So that SCV is gone, but it basically saw everything it needed to. Saw the second gas, saw the lair being built. So this is almost certainly going to be a 3-hatch Muta build from Napoleon. However, he is going to try and be a little tricky here. He's built, looks like 10 or 12 Zerglings here to go and do some early shenanigans. Now, this is actually something you'd more often see from a 2-hatch Muta play, where you want to make one round of Zerglings first, try and kill as many Marines as possible, so then your Mutalisk harass is that much more effective. I think it's a lot less common to see off of a 3-hatch play. But regardless, that is in fact what Napoleon's going for. We do see this spy right now. I just want to quickly mention, actually, before things get too heated, that Napoleon is actually a race picker. He actually plays both sides of this matchup, TVZ and ZVT. So if anyone has good ZVT, I'd imagine it would be Napoleon.
Yep. Well, let's see if he's equal to this. We have a few Marines pushing out. Will he go in for the attack? It looks like he's not willing to. There is only 1 medic, so I'm not too sure about quite how strong those Marines are going to be. I don't know what research is done for them yet. I would imagine... Okay, no, he doesn't have stim yet, so those Zerglings might be able to catch those Marines in a bit of an awkward position if they get lucky, but now with 2 medics, probably not likely to get a decent engagement. But yeah, I'm sure he knows his limits. And meanwhile, we have the Spire about to pop, so any second now we should be seeing the Mutas come in. We can see he saved up the gas and saved up the lava, so that should be happening any minute. And the Terran stims out. Stim is definitely done and manages to catch a couple of Lings, and this point where he starts to force the Zerg all the way back to his main base. However, there are going to be a couple of Sunken colonies up and ready, so I wouldn't imagine this is going to be too much trouble for Napoleon here.
Yeah, and I quite like what he was doing with those Zerglings. I mean, he knew he didn't actually have enough to commit to attacking that Terran force, but basically the thing is, if you let the Terran push out earlier on before your Mutas are ready, you have to make more Sunken colonies. So instead of doing that, he kind of basically ran back and forth, pretended his Zerglings were a threat, and was just like, if you move out of your base, I might have enough Zerglings to surround your Marines. I might run by them and go into your base. You're not sure. So he's kind of forced TerrOr to kind of just stay back in his base and not actually move out. And then he can get away with just leaving this 1 Sun colony. I mean, as you can see, he's built a second creep colony, but he didn't even morph it into a Sunken. So he saved an extra 50 minerals there, which otherwise he might have had to spend if those Marines had pushed out a little bit farther.
Such a cost saver right there from him. And right now we have the Mutas going in over the natural. The scan goes down at the perfect timing, and he manages to land quite a few shots on those Mutas. Some bit of a surprise right there. Napoleon taking so many hits, finally manages to get a decent shot off. It looks like one of these missile turrets is going to go down. Might be able to catch the SCV before it finishes the second one, and now he has decent rain over that natural expansion mineral line. He should be able to do some serious damage to the SCV count, but well-placed missile turret on the high ground up there is making sure they don't do too much, and losing a couple of meters there as well, just to make his attack a little less effective.
Yep, indeed. And actually at the bottom right, we do see a hatchery going down at the bottom right main, being harassed by a fire bat. Now this is actually a very common place to expand for the Zerg, taking us through at a faraway main. So, you know, this isn't any kind of map hack by the Terran. This fire bat coming here is actually also fairly common, because once the Mutas are out, the fire bat obviously is not going to do too much right now. It's mainly the Marines, so the fire bat will just get sent out kind of on a suicide mission there just to check for that third. Meanwhile, a lot more shots on these Mutas. You know that earlier when those Mutas charged in there, I was quite surprised. I mean, he took a ton of damage going in like that. Mutas are actually relatively fragile, so you really don't want to be taking that many shots from those Marines. I think he was just maybe getting a little bit too hasty there, maybe thought he had a small timing window where you know, there might not be enough defenses up yet, but actually he ended up just charging straight into a killing field there.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to find a little bit of a timing right at that point, but he should have been a little bit more careful, because as you're saying, the Mutas are fragile, and especially when the Terran opponent is as good as Terra is, you can guarantee he's going to be focusing down your Mutas. He's not going to miss an opportunity like that, so Napoleon just needs to be that little bit more careful right here, otherwise he's going to lose a lot of his Mutas and possibly the game before too long. Having a look at his tech right now, I believe his Lurkers should be done. I don't see it researching at the Hydralisk Den, but nor do I see any Lurker eggs, so he's going to need those.
There's a couple just morphing at the third, which is where they're usually most important, but in this case, Terra's actually just pushing straight for the natural. I just caught a scan going down there. He sees that the Lurkers at the natural aren't finished yet, so he's just going to go for it. These Lurkers actually really need to finish. There's not enough here in the way of just Sunkens and Lynx to actually defend this, although I think Terra wasn't quite sure exactly when the Lurkers started, so better safe than sorry, and he decides not to go for it. I think if he actually committed there, he may have been able to bust it, but it would have been very close. So maybe better to just play the safe route, you know, just go for the longer game and just kind of keep your opponent on the back foot. I mean, he is in a perfectly fine position anyway. The Mutas haven't done too much damage at his base.
No, it's looking good. I mean, at this point in the game, it can be a little bit deceptive, because you see the... Oh, hold that thought, because we have the Lurkers pushing out, and he's going to go for a double-pronged attack, bringing the Mutas and Lings in now as well, but a bit too early, a bit too impetuous right there from Napoleon. He manages to force Terra back, but oh my god, he's losing so many Mutas right here. Throws all his Mutas away into a whole load of Marine fire. All his Mutas go down. That is a really quite shocking piece of micro from Napoleon. He's going to have to just push out with Lings and Lurkers right now. He should be able to put these Marines back, but at what cost? Very, very expensive for him right there.
Man, I think that was just completely a mistake there. I think he might have thought his Mutas were a little bit further back behind the Lurkers or something and just forgot to hold position them, because I think one of the Mutas got aggroed or something and all of them just got pulled into the Marines and there was no micro there, just let them all die. So that's a huge loss for Napoleon there. Those Mutas are very, very gas heavy. However, the third is established. He's got two Lurkers at the top of the ramp. He hasn't burrowed them yet, but essentially once these two Lurkers are burrowed just a little bit further back from the ramp there, they should basically hold any amount of Marines here, because the Lurkers do in fact two-shot Marines when they don't have any armor upgrades. But hold that thought, we are going to have an engagement here in the middle, and it looks like this time Terra's the one not paying attention. He notices at the last second how many medics are going to go down. Looks like actually gets away with most of the forces intact. That could have been a lot worse for him. Good reaction time there at the end to save those forces. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he lost maybe half. He could have easily lost the whole thing right there, so he did kind of pull his fat out of the fire at just the last second, and now he's building up a little force of tanks back there as well to help him, excuse me, to help him deal with the Lurkers. So he should be a bit more equal to his opponent Napoleon's army right now. And Napoleon's army is not looking too great. He's kind of out in the middle of the map, but I expect he'll be forced to retreat quite soon. We have science vessels, we have tanks, we have a decent number of Marines with which we can see a pretty nice spread around those Lurkers. So I think very soon Terra's going to have the run of the map right again, and Napoleon's going to have to keep a close eye on his bottom right-hand corner base if he's going to hang on to it.
Indeed, and actually this first science vessel usually marks the first major Terran push out onto the map, using this for detection to see those Lurkers, of course, because you don't want to accidentally walk over some stopped Lurkers. And it looks like a couple of Lurkers just randomly left out here. Napoleon seeming to have a little bit of trouble with his army control here, as we saw earlier with the Mutas, and now with these Lurkers just kind of standing around here. Really should be pulling them back until he can group them up with some Zerglings or some other forces here. The Lurkers by themselves really are not very effective against this, actually, wow, very big Terran force, 3 siege tanks there. However, the Hive is now finished, the Filer Mount on the way. Now this is the crucial piece of tech that's going to hold this push. basically the Zerg in ZBT will just try and rush for Defilers. And in the modern metagame, it's basically the first vessel comes out and the Terran tries to push the Zerg as far back into his natural as he possibly can. And then the Zerg, on the other hand, is trying to get Defilers as fast as he can so that he can stop this push and force the Terran back.
Yeah, but his Defiler's going to be slow. I mean, Consume is only just beginning now, so he's still a fair way away from that research. And that research is, of course, incredibly important because you need to be able to swarm just as much as you like. So without Consume, he's not going to be able to hold out against this very long, but he just needs to keep stalling as hard as possible. Fortunately for him, it doesn't look like he's going to come under any pressure at the bottom right-hand corner, so he only has to focus on one aspect for now. But the Siege Tanks are making their way all the way to this natural. He might be able to Scourge out the Science Vessel, which would be great, but unfortunately the Scourge going straight past, not managing to land. And the Terran is knocking at his door. And it's going to be a hard defense right now for Napoleon.
Oh man, this could be very bad. And the Nidus Canal is too far forward as well, so if that gets taken down, the link to the third base is actually going to be gone. While this is happening, actually, Napoleon's taking a fourth base here at the bottom right natural, but I mean, what he needs right now is units to defend here. He needs to hold out until the Defilers get out. He's morphing some more Lurkers, but as I said, without that Dark Swarm, he's really not going to be able to hold. Consume is very nearly finished here. Will they get out before the natural goes down? I'm not sure. The natural hatchery is actually in siege range right now. The tanks aren't targeting it, but oh man, this is going to come so close right now. I wonder if Napoleon... Oh, nice Scourging of that Science Vessel there. That's like very crucial there. Terran's now going to have to use scans in order to see these Lurkers. Yeah,
I think I'm not sure if Irradiate's done yet, but I'd imagine he'd have used it. But there we go. There is the first Dark Swarm. And now finally the Zerg is able to push Terra away from his natural expansion, which is exactly what he needs to do at this point and get a little bit more freedom. He has managed to expand again in the bottom right, but I think the Nidus Canal positioning that you highlighted was a little bit of an error, placing it so far forward. I mean, there was only one thing ever going to happen to that Nidus Canal as soon as he was under pressure, which is basically the last thing you want, and that's cutting off your conduit from bottom left to bottom right, which is so crucial at this stage.
One small thing I want to point out is actually there's a lot of idle SCVs around Terra's command centers, and that's actually something I noticed in a lot of Terra's games. For some reason, he's really good about making SCVs, but he just always leaves them around the command centers. Isn't so good about going actually back to the CCs and making them mine. Now, I was going to say earlier, this fourth hatchery here at the bottom right natural, I was wondering if he might have been thinking that he was going to lose his natural, so he would just expand anyway, and even if he lost his natural, he'd be on 3 base, because he actually has a Zergling at the 12 o'clock, which is the Terran's third, so if he knows the Terran doesn't have a third base, hold that thought. It looks like, oh, the Lurkers go down just before Darkspawn finishes. There's a couple of Zerglings here, but with no Lurkers, it's going to be very difficult for them to do anything. The Zerglings go down, and I think this base is going to go down. I don't think Napoleon should even try and save this. He should just send a couple of Lurkers to kind of burrow at the top of the ramp and make sure he doesn't lose his original third base. He is actually sending up some reinforcements from the back. A few Marines do actually spot that for Terra. So Terra's actually just going to run straight up the ramp here. He should make sure to bring up these siege tanks so they don't get lost to these reinforcing units here. Those siege tanks are actually quite crucial in helping against the Lurkers, but no, it looks like the siege tanks don't make it up the ramp, so those are going to go down. 3 kills for the Zerg. However, the Marines are just wreaking havoc on this base right here. They'll be able to kill all of the drones unless they can escape into the Nidus and very likely take down the hatchery as well.
There isn't even another Nidus Canal exit. That Nidus Canal stands alone. It's just an entrance. They'd go nowhere. So unfortunately, those drones are unable to escape. They just need to be saved rather than to run away. Oh, Plague are going down on top of all those Marines. So that'll make them quite easy to clean up. But really, Napoleon's lost quite a lot of his economy in these attacks, and he's lost a lot of his army as well. I mean, he needs to do something to get a foothold. The Terran player is expanding freely up to the 12 o'clock, with Napoleon able to do absolutely nothing about that. Looking ready to take the natural again at the bottom right, but he's still barely mining on the main at all. So he needs to really pump some drones in order to make this useful. And in order to do that, he's going to sacrifice a lot in terms of his army production, which I'm not sure he can afford to do right now.
Yeah, this is actually quite a bad situation now. I mean, generally, Zerg needs to be 1 base ahead of the Terran in order to stay or to be considered on equal footing with them. So right now, since they're both on 3 bases, Zerg is in quite a bad position. However, he does have all of his tech. He has his Defiler tech, crucially. And, you know, if there's any unit in the game that can allow you to do crazy comebacks, it is Defilers. Or I'd say, at least Defilers are among a few of those units. Perhaps Reaver is also among those awesome units that can cause crazy comebacks with good micro. But basically, I think Napoleon's going to want to do some really cost-efficient attacks here, you know, just sending in small groups of Zerglings with a single Defiler to do some harassment, maybe get some big plagues off on the Marines to just try and be as cost-efficient as he can and just kind of turtle up here behind Dark Swarms and Lurkers until he can kind of re-stabilize his economy on 4 bases. That's really what he's going to need to deal with such a big Terran force right now. Oh man, there's so many units, although it looks like Terra's kind of forgotten a control group of Marines here in the middle.
I don't know if he's forgotten them or if that's the kind of a positioning thing. It looks like he's going for some kind of... Is he going for a flank on the Zerg force there? I'm not quite sure. He seems to be splitting his units with a view to doing that. And it looks like he's bringing up his Marines from back now as well. He's got a couple wandering errantly through the left-hand side, but it looks like he is going to get a decent flank off. A few medics getting separated. Will we see a plague? You got to shout it.
Plague! Oh, it's just a Dark Swarm. I suppose that is, in the long run, that is generally the more strategic spell to cast, but Plagues are just so awesome, getting that red goop all over.
Yeah, and we all know how much you love Plague, so we wouldn't want to deprive you of that pleasure. And hopefully next time one crops up, you know, you can do your thing. Terrors. Oh, Plague! I did it.
Yeah, Plague! By the way, for anyone who doesn't actually know what these spells do, just in case there's some newcomers to Brood War, basically Plague reduces the HP of a unit down to 1. I think it does up to like 250-ish damage, I want to say. So it doesn't kill a unit, but it brings them down essentially to nothing. Whereas Dark Swarm basically makes Zerg units invincible to shooting. So anything that's under a Dark Swarm cannot be hit by a ranged attack, with a couple of exceptions, Lurkers being one of them. It's somewhat complicated how the actual mechanic works, but anyway, so that's a quick summary there. I do want to point out, actually, by the way, these spider mines here. So essentially, Terran's doing a very common kind of transition here, going into the late game TVZ. Ooh, nice play catching a few vessels here as well, which is that he's making a bunch of vultures from his factory, and just laying spider mines around, because basically the Zerg right now on his composition with Lurkerling Defiler has no good units to deal with spider mines, and also the vultures are very, very cheap. They only cost minerals, and really the Terran just wants to be spending all his gas on vessels as well, so the way the resources balance is also quite nice.
Yeah. And I think we actually saw that Plague significantly earlier go off on those vessels down at the bottom right corner, but I didn't want to break your flow, but Plague on size vessels can be cool because...
scream Plague.
Okay, that will definitely be borne in mind. Oh, I just missed one. Damn. Anyway, we have the Lings dashing in, and they're going to be able to grab a whole handful of Marines right there, and pretty much for free. But yeah, it's cool if you see a Plague on a bunch of science vessels, and then a Mutilist comes in, because of course Mutants have a bouncing attack, so they can just take down a whole load of damaged science vessels in one, and that could be a pretty awesome move to see from Zerg. But it looks like Napoleon is kind of clawing this back a little bit. He's kind of establishing map control again, and just managing to hold Terror at bay, although he hasn't been able to make much headways up to the top right hand corner when Terror's going to be able to throw down another base once again, pretty much free of charge. So definitely not out of the woods yet for Napoleon.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically double expanding right now, taking the bottom right natural and that 9 o'clock base, but, you know, he still doesn't have them yet, so he's just on 3 gas right now, and that's really, really limiting his production of those heavy hitters, the Lurkers, and of course the Defilers, those crucial spellcasters that he needs. And another big thing to worry about is this science vessel count. This vessel count is going up and up and up, and once you get a critical mass of vessels as the Terran, it's extremely difficult and annoying for the Zerg to deal with that. The vessels can just run around and radiate all your Defilers, your Ultras. Oh my god! Oh man, Terror just running his Marines there to be skewered by the Lurkers. Wow. Looks like 19 kills between those 4 Lurkers. Bit of a miscontrol there.
Yeah, a bit of a miscontrol. That's an understatement. I think the Marines would be saying something quite different, but yeah, losing a lot of them pretty much for free. We do have the Terran moving over to the bottom right-hand corner, but there is another Defiler ready and waiting, and they're only Marines in this strike force. So barring a Radiate, there's going to be pretty much nothing you can do against that single Defiler and a group of Lings and Lurkers. But boom, there we go. There is a first Radiate on the Defiler. I hate how a Radiate makes units kind of gravitate towards each other. We also have Terror pushing towards the left-hand side.
Sorry. He had 100 energy there, but he actually doesn't get the Swarm off before the Defiler dies, so this base is actually completely gone. And in fact, the 9 o'clock base is going to die just to a ragtag team of 2 Vultures, 3 Marines, and a Siege tank here.
Yeah, I mean, that was such a speculative base. He had really nothing to defend it with. He has moved an Overlord in with a Lurker and a Defiler.
Oh god, dude, drop in the main, Elegant!
Oh, that's a lot of stuff. Okay, so yeah, we have Terror moving right into the main of Napoleon, going for this heartland right here. He's going to be able to take out so much tech while he's in there, and he's been able to take out the bottom right-hand base as well. He's been able to take out the left-hand base simultaneously, so he's really all over this right now. A couple of Hydras coming out of the bottom right, able to take out a bunch of Plague Science vessels, and he's going to try throwing down that hatchery again immediately. I don't know if that's the best idea, because there's still a strike force of Marines waiting, but Terror is still munching his way through Napoleon's main base, and is now starting to make his way up the ramp in the bottom right-hand corner as well. Napoleon is beyond in trouble right here, although the Defiler Mound, interestingly, is still somehow alive.
Yeah, I don't think it matters too much. Those Spire's gone down, the Hive has gone down. There's still a few Marines running back there. You know, what's his name? Napoleon still has to worry about that. He's lost those 2 bases he was trying to take. He's basically down to 2 bases right now against the Terrans 4. This game is essentially over, but one interesting thing I want to point out is that Terra's actually just stayed on Medic Marine this entire game. He's actually gone up to like, I think that's 11 barracks right there or something like that. Really interesting, just sticking with that bio. A lot of times what you see nowadays is a switch into mech. So I already pointed out, adding on those vultures in the mid game, but usually what that points to is once you go into the late game, the Terran switches into a pure mech force of vultures, tanks, and a few Goliaths sprinkled in there. So yeah, it's interesting that Terra didn't do that. I mean, I guess he's more comfortable with the Medic Marine, which is completely fine here, although I think a lot of people think that it's possibly slightly more mechanically difficult than just going for mech.
I would say so. It just gives you so many more units to control. I mean, because these Marines come thick and fast. I mean, he loses a force, but look how quickly they replenishes itself. I mean, he's got Marines streaming out of his main base. He's got huge numbers of them accumulating. It is natural in the middle of the map as well. So whilst he does lose his strike force in the bottom right-hand corner, it's really not the end of the world because he can just kind of pump another one. Oh, managing to scourge out a couple of science vessels down at the bottom left-hand corner. But yeah, Terra just taking complete control right now. He can pump that cheap fort all day long. As long as he's got bases running, he can make an absolute cloud of Marines and medics. And as long as he keeps on top of Napoleon, then there's nothing else Zoe can do about it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what Napoleon's thinking right now. I mean, he's retaking this base. He's cleaned up, well, not really cleaned up the force in his main because there's 2 more dropships going down there, fresh dropships to try and finish off this Defiler mound that only had, I think, like 39 HP left or something like that. There are a few lurkers here though. I'm not sure if he knows that they're still there. He'll probably scan though. Yeah, he does scan. Let's see how good his micro is, if he's going to do a good spread. And it looks like not the best control in the world. These lurkers might actually hold off this force. Or maybe, yeah, they will actually be fine. But I mean, if you just look at the mini-map right now, look at all these trails of white Marines and medics and science vessels just streaming across the map. Yeah,
it's like Sauron Terran at this stage.
It is indeed.
Is that even a thing? It's a thing now.
It is a thing now, Elegant. You have declared it a thing. And it's in a Team Liquid Star League, so it's now a thing for sure.
You all saw it. You're all here, so it's cool. Yeah, this bottom right-hand base is going to be absolute toast, and more huge numbers of Marines coming out of the natural. It's pretty late GG timing right here from Napoleon. I've got to be honest. I don't know what happened to the dropships full of stuff. The dropships are still there, but the stuff is not. So I guess those 4 lurkers and the Lings managed to clean it up. But down in the bottom right-hand corner, we still have a huge number of Marines heading up that ramp right now with no lurkers to meet them. That is going to be very easy work for them, and all the way into that base as well. And that will leave Napoleon, poor Napoleon, mining off just his natural. Although he will have Ultralisk soon, so I guess it's not all doom and gloom.
And more importantly, Elegant, this one intelligent Hydralisk is actually hidden in an Overlord while the entire Terran army runs past him. You notice that behind the third? That guy, see, he's a survivor. That guy's a hero. That's like the Bear Grylls of Hydralisk right now. Like, he's drinking that Overlord's piss, and he's like, yep, I'm still alive, baby. I am still alive. And there's the GG from Napoleon. Alright, so Terror does take that and will advance to the round of 8. That was just a best of 1 in the round of 16. I gotta sit up straight so you can see my lovely face. I should say Elegant's lovely face, really. He's the lovely one here of the 2 of us. Oh well.
Don't stop
I'm like the Artosis of the duo. Ooh, that unnecessary Artosis burn.
Yeah, and yourself. What are you doing? It's just cruel.
Yeah. Anyway, I do have some more games now. It looks like or at least one of the semi-final matches is done. So let me quickly grab some replays and we can get going into the official cast, I guess? I don't know. This is still pretty official.
Well, yeah, it's highly official, but this is going to be like the uber official, pro level. No more Hydralisks drinking piss in Overlords. None of that. I mean, this is real.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. No, we're actually going to a round of 8 match.
Okay.
I was totally not